And he walked away and he left me with that guitar. So that was my first guitar.
Wow.
And it was later on in life, I saw a picture of him. Came to Miami to perform, and I saw his picture on somebody's shirt. And I said, I know that guy. And the person said, no, you cannot know him. You don't know him, man. His name is Jerry Garcia, and he's singing with a band called Grateful Dead. And then I said, no, you don't understand. He gave me my first guitar.
After the money's gone, once in a lifetime. My next guest here on Musicians Reveal is a dear friend. We've known each other, 25, 30 years, something like that. Yes, he is an international star recording artist, originally from Jamaica, makes his home half of the year in Connecticut and Jamaica. He is the founder of Talking Dreads. He's also the lead singer with Chris Frantz and Tina Weymouth's Tom Tom Club. He's a philanthropist, library, school out in Jamaica. And I can name many, many more things, but this man is here. Welcome, Mystic Bowie.
Thank you very much for having me, man.
Yeah, always nice to see you. And you're back in the cold. So how's Connecticut?
Joe, to be true to you, I'm going to be honest. I love Connecticut. I hate the cold.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you've told me, you said, oh yeah, we'll come up to Saratoga Springs, but it's got to be not in the winter, but you're diving into it.
Yeah, I always tell you, I've come to visit in the summer.
Right.
Obviously, I'm going to be there New Year's Eve, but that's for work.
Okay, yeah.
For work, you do whatever you need to do. You do what you have to do. But
right,
man, I came back from Jamaica a few weeks ago, and I got honestly really sick. Sinus infection, ear infection, and everything that the cold brings on. With the cold viruses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I pulled through all that.
Yeah.
And now I'm ready for New Year's Eve in Saratoga Springs. Baby.
Saratoga Springs, New York. Is it called First Night Out? I know it's New Year's Eve.
Yes, they say it's a first night celebration. Apparently, there will be multiple bands in multiple locations.
Yeah, I checked the roster. Ben Folds 5.
Yeah. So I know I'm performing at the Universal Preservation Hall.
Yeah, great venue. They converted it from a church, and you were there a few months ago.
It's an amazing spot, man. I love it.
Yeah, you tore it up with the Talking Dreads. I mean, just energetic as always. How much water weight do you lose in a show on average? Do you know?
I never tried. I never checked.
Okay.
I haven't checked it. For me, I know it's quite a bit, because if I don't chug down 3-4 bottles of water after each performance,
right,
I get muscle cramps in my thighs and my legs.
Okay.
So I know, and muscle is mostly water and fiber, the protein. So what I have to do each time is chug 3-4 bottles of water after every performance. If not, 10 minutes in after that, my legs start to tighten up.
Right. But you take care of yourself. I mean, I've seen you over the years. I've seen you when your voice was shot the day before, and you went on stage and sang just like nobody knew.
That's the thing. If you train yourself to fight through issues, and to fight through problem, and to push through, barrel your way through, whenever the real issue comes around, no one is going to know.
Right. And you've been performing since you were a child. And let's for our viewers and listeners out there on the different outlets, I wanted to first maybe make a brief introduction on how the concept of Talking Dreads with your band, and how did you develop it, and it's a big success now.
How I developed the idea of Talking Dreads while I was on tour, singing as one of the singers for the Tom Tom Club.
Okay.
And I've watched the offers came in. I watched the suggestions came in, and Chris and Tina would always be open to the idea of her Talking Heads reunion,
Yeah.
um, but it could never happen. So therefore, I wanted to happen so bad. I wanted
Yeah.
to be there for that Talking Heads
Yeah.
reunion. I want to be there. I want to be that. Even if I'm not singing with them, I want to be backstage working with
Yeah.
them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was all pumped about it, and then I got disappointed when I realized it's not gonna happen. So
Yeah.
I got inspired. Thanks to that disappointment, I got inspired. I'm already on tour with members of Talking Heads,
Right.
singing with them,
Yeah.
playing music with them.
Hmm.
So the inspiration came about. Why don't I, who is already a fan and a member of the group, basically,
Right.
re-record my interpretation of their Talking Head songs
Right.
in my genre, reggae.
Right.
So that's what I did. I came up with the idea and I started sketching out ideas on paper.
Hmm.
I started sketching out drum beats in my head. And I brought the idea to Chrisantina while I was on tour. What do you think about me recording um, Talking Heads music in reggae? We're going to call it Talking Dreads.
Right.
And they both 100% said yes,
Wow.
instantly. No questions asked. And there were no pushback. And then I wanted to also legitimize the whole idea of it and make sure nobody was disrespected. So I
Hmm.
couldn't get a hold of David. So I got a hold of Seymour Stein, who had was the first person to sign Talking Heads.
Oh, okay.
Um, so I got a hold of Seymour Stein. I went and met with him at his studio in New York, at the Warner Brothers Studios, and told him of my idea.
Right.
And he laughed. He said, "Why the hell didn't I think of that?" He said, "This is an amazing idea. You should
Right.
definitely do it." I said, "Well, I'll do it, but I'm gonna need your blessing on this one."
Hmm.
And he said, "You'll have my blessing if you do me one thing." I said, "What is that?" He said, "You have to put this one song in it for me.
Ah.
Love Goes to Building on Fire."
Oh, okay. That was
So
his. That's
Seymour
his
Stein
favorite.
actually
Yeah.
chose that song for the recording project.
Oh, wow. So Seymour Stein, his affiliation with Talking Heads, what exactly is it?
Seymour Stein, he was the founder and
Okay.
only owner of Sawyer Records.
Oh, okay.
He was the one who was walking by CBGBs and heard that crazy music playing inside, walked in and signed, asked them, who are these kids?
Yeah.
And they said, well, they call themselves Talking Heads. And he literally called them and offered them a deal right away.
Wow.
He's literally discovered, signed Talking Heads, the Ramones, and the list goes on. Then
Yeah.
from Sawyer Records, he branched out to become the president of Warner Brother Records, of Warner Records,
Hmm.
and he was with Warner Records till the day he passed away. So what had happened is I went to Jamaica. One was to legitimize what I was doing with this recording.
Right.
Talking Heads already wrote their part, their songs. I then want to legitimize what I was doing with it. I want to make my rendition, not a cover per
Right.
se. I didn't want to just record it identically as Talking Heads did it. I
Hmm.
wanted was to do a reggae version, Mystic Bowie's version.
Yeah.
So I called up a couple friends of mine. One of them were uh was it Mike Keisha. The late Mike Keisha was the manager for Toots and the Maytals and a Yellow Man, and the list goes on at the time.
Right.
And Mike had mentioned to me, because I was already kind of getting together and rehearsing the idea of Talking Dreads with a group of musicians from Boston. He said, no. He said, you can use them as the touring musicians. But he
Hmm.
said, if you're going to record this, you want to take it to Jamaica and you want to make sure you have real seasoned Jamaican studio musicians play on this record.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah.
So that's what I did. I took his advice, and needless to say, the musicians from Boston, when I mentioned the idea to them, I'm like, well, you're gonna be the person making the money of this with me
Right.
from
Uh-huh.
the live shows,
Right, right.
but I need to take this song to Jamaica based on good advice, record it there with these musicians. We're talking about Sly Dunbar, Robbie Shakespeare, Robbie Lynn.
Wow.
I'm talking about all these legends.
Yeah.
Like how can you, not want to support this, this idea? And they got upset and they quit. So I said, okay, I'm on my own. Went to Jamaica and called up a friend of mine was it turned out to be the co-producer and the
Mhm.
guitar player on the record. His name is Lincoln Thomas.
Be away, burning down the house.
Okay.
And then we call Dean Fraser, the legendary sax player, Dean Fraser, who called his horn team
Okay.
into the studio. Engineer Barry O'Hare studio was booked in Ocho Rios, and we went there. Then they called in Barris Hammond's bass player, uh, Trevor McKenzie,
Okay.
whose brother Rupert McKenzie is Talking Dreads' current and always bass player.
Right, right. Yeah, energetic too.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So and then it goes from there. So now we're in Jamaica. They call this young man Bowie, who used to be the music arranger and keyboard player for the Bob
Right.
Marley's Kids. He jumped in on keyboard, and Congo Billy jumped in on percussion, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger. And then we call Kurt Bennett, who jump in on some of the drums. Then we have another set of the song with Sly and Robbie, and it was just becoming this amazing all-star cast
Wow.
of recording and toured musicians and
Mhm.
engineer in the same studio. Then we have Ernest Ranglin, legendary guitar player. Ernest Ranglin came in and played on a couple of songs, Psycho Killer
Right.
and Burning Down the House. Um, it was just simply amazing. And then during that process, there were some miracles that were happening. And when I say miracle that were happening, I would record ideas. Would record
Okay.
ideas in the studio, because what we also did, 'cause we want to keep it more like a tight knit family,
Right.
so there would be no tension and everybody would be relaxed with each other. So we brought in, and one of the engineer that worked on this project was Stephen Stanley,
Okay.
who actually was a Tom Tom Club's original studio engineer back in the early days.
Wow.
He recorded Where the Rapping Hood, Genius of Love, and all those
Mhm.
songs. So we brought everybody in the studio on this project. And during that, it just popped in my head, why don't I call the States and figure out which of Talking Heads' favorite musicians or artists would be willing to jump on this with me. So the first person came to mind was Cindy Wilson from B-52s. I love
Right.
Cindy's amazingly talented vocalist and
Right.
just
Right.
overall kind person.
Mhm.
I called Cindy and asked her if she would mind joining me on the song Heaven, because she had that very powerful voice. Oh, heaven.
Right. Right.
I know it matched that song. So, you know what? Call her up. She said, Mystic, 100%, I'm on board.
Wow.
So she jumped on, did vocals. She couldn't, at the time, she couldn't make it to Jamaica. So I end up, took the files, flew to Athens, Georgia,
Right.
recorded the vocals with her there, brought it back to Jamaica. And then when I got to Jamaica, Dean Fraser, who
Mhm.
is a music arranger and also backing musicians for Tarrus Riley. I asked him
Mhm.
if he think Tarrus would want to join me on a song. He said, well, let me ask him, man, and see what he say. And he asked Tarrus, and Tarrus said, yes, man, I'm on board. Tell Mystic I'm on board. So Tarrus Riley jumped on one song with me as well. And it just started becoming morphed into this amazing recording session in Jamaica.
Right. Right.
And then I realized the advice I took from these engineers, managers, and producers, they were 100% right. They were correct. Go
Yeah.
to Jamaica and record it, legitimize it, and then give it to the world as my reggae version, my reggae rendition of Talking Heads music. I had no regrets. And so
Yeah.
far, it's been very well received,
Right. Yeah.
you know, very well received so far across the US and Canada, which we have toured so far.
Yeah. Our viewers, they can go to talkingdreads.com.
Correct.
Great pictures of Mystic Bowie and links to his various sites and the discography. He's been recording since Mystic Bowie and the Pallbearers and all through solo records and now Talking Dreads, of course, the last few years. The tour dates, you've got a really busy schedule kicking in 2025 after the New Year's Eve gig in Saratoga Springs. So I'm happy for you, all this success, and
Thank you.
you always put on tremendous show. We've seen you so many times over the years. Let me get into your relationship with Chris and Tina. And I was reading something. It might have been on your website. Um, was the first time you met them? Was it at Tramps in New York City, or was that?
That's the first time we officially met as a grown up, with me as
Oh,
an adult.
okay. Wow.
Yes, in the early 80s, I would perform. I was a child performer and I would perform in different hotels throughout the
Okay.
Caribbean,
Right.
not only in Jamaica. And one year I remember performing at, they would bring me to perform at the Giancana Festival in Bahamas, in Nassau.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I end up meeting all these musicians. And like I said, I had no clue who they were. I had zero clue who these people were.
Right.
And the truth is, I have no interest in knowing who they were because I was just a young teenage musician,
Mm-hmm.
singer,
Right.
getting exposed to, you know, getting on an airplane and leaving and going to different locations. And,
Right.
and then the just so happened that the place I was staying in the Bahamas was owned by Chris Blackwell,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
owner for Island Records.
Island. Yeah.
He owned the Campus Point recording studio on on one side of the road, and then across the street was the Campus Point Resort, which he also
Okay.
owned at the
Right.
time. Well, I was staying in one of the Campus Point condominium, behind the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of musicians would stay. That's where Chris and Tina would stay. That's where a lot of them would be hanging out. So they'll go to the studio. So what I would do now, I would sneak out
Right.
while the person was supposed to be making sure that I'm staying out of trouble.
Right.
I would sneak out and go hang out and watch what was going on in the studio with these folks, because I know all these musicians were hanging out at the studio next door. So I snuck over there, and there all these musicians over there. You're talking about Grace Jones, Freddie McGregor, Sly and Robbie,
Wow.
Keith Emerson, you name it. Chris Frantz, Tina Weymouth, all these musicians were hanging out there. So here I am now, sneaking very quietly. But then some of them were doing stuff that kids weren't supposed to be around.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where I met all these people. But again, like I said, they had no idea who I was. I had no idea who they were. One of my favorite story that came out of those encounters as a child, um, getting to meet all these legends without knowing who they were at the time, is the fact that there was one man, a young man, had a Norton motorcycle, one of those that he brought from England at the time. And once in a while, he'd give me a ride on the back of it. I'd ask him if he could give me a ride. I'd jump on the back of it and he'd ride me around,
Right.
drop me back off. And I was the happiest kid in the world,
Right.
And then there was one night when there was one guy who was kind of drunk
Uh-huh.
or whatever. And getting on the back of the motorcycle, and I'm like, "Is my, I need to get my ride on the back of the motorcycle. It's my turn, you know."
Right.
And he jumped on the back of the motorcycle, and he wouldn't get off. So when the rider was taking off slowly, I grabbed the person in the back of his shirt and pulled him off and ran back over to the condo where I was staying. Forgot about that, that even ever happened. I never forget. It's like 25 years later or more.
Mhm.
It just so happened that I was doing I was performing for the Okanagan International Film Festival
Okay.
in British Columbia. And the band that I was working with there, okay, they told me I didn't have to bring a band. All I have to do, I'm going to be the lead vocalist. There will be a band there.
Right.
And that band would be Keith Emerson
Oh, yeah.
from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It's going to be Ron Walker, who was at one point was a keyboard player for Ike Turner.
Mhm.
Um, there was going to be a lot of amazing John Lee Saunders, who he was one of the sax player with Louis Armstrong.
Mm.
It's all these legends
Yeah,
again.
yeah, right.
Was doing this show in this bunch of shows in British Columbia, and I was going to be the lead vocalist. I'm like, is this real?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's
So
impressive.
again, I forgot what had happened in the Bahamas.
Mhm.
I totally got that out of my mind. And before I came on stage one night, I never forget that. Excuse me. Keith Emerson was telling a story to introduce me.
Right.
He's talking about this young man. The first time I met him, and he was about 14 years old in the Bahamas. I would give him a ride on the back of my motorcycle, and he was telling this whole story.
Yeah.
And then he said there was one night that there was a young man jump on the back of my motorcycle and wouldn't get off.
Mhm.
And so Mystic grabbed him in the back of his shirt, yanked him off the bike, and run. And then he turned to me and he said, "Just so you know, that young man was Ringo Starr."
Oh, wow.
I was like,
So you roughed up a Beatle.
dude, I was nervous to go on stage that night, even knowing Ringo Starr wasn't there. I was,
Yeah, fortunately he cleaned himself up after that, but that is whew.
oh man, that's the story of my life that I'm going down with. The story that I've been telling my grandchildren now, man.
Have you met Ringo at all?
No, I've never met him since then.
Oh, okay.
I've never met him. I've met his son. His name is Zach Starkey. He called himself in the music business.
Yeah, plays drums. I think with the Who, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I met him in Jamaica. He's always in Jamaica. Hang out in Jamaica a lot.
Okay.
Friend of mine, Rob Fraboni, who's also a producer, and basically they were, met them up in Jamaica. We're supposed to be doing building a recording studio there together.
Right.
So I don't know what became of that. But yeah, I met Zach. I never met Ringo. We see how that goes.
Yeah, it would be ironic if he's still doing the Ringo Stars All Stars. If you joined it as one of the vocalists on one of the tours and you bring up the story, I don't think he'll remember it.
I would not bring up that story.
No.
I don't need Ringo's fans to throw rocks at me.
Yeah, that's right. So getting back to Chris Frantz and Tina Weymouth, your great friends, becoming the lead vocalist with the Tom Tom Club. How did that come about?
Basically, what had happened is in 1992, close to the end of 1992, there was going to be a Mardi Gras festival in New York City
Okay.
at a venue called Tramps,
Right.
which is no longer.
Mhm.
And the promoter / owner for that festival name is Jimmy Mack, who is also an accordion player in a group called Lugaroo.
Okay.
Jimmy Mack has reached out to me and asked me to be on the show as one of the performers, and said I was going to be the only reggae act. I will be the only reggae act on the show. I was very honored, knowing that you're talking about, the Marley family. He could call one of those
Yeah,
to
right. Yeah.
represent the reggae. He could call all these, these legends that are still alive, or the children of these legends. And he called me instead,
Right.
which I was very honored for. I explained to him that I did not have a band working with at the time.
Okay.
And he said, it's not a problem. At that period of time, I was living in Western Connecticut.
Okay.
I was living in Western Connecticut. And he said, well, the musicians that I'm going to be your backing band for this event, they based in Connecticut. They based in Connecticut, and they agreed to be your backing band for that event, so you don't have to worry about it. And they gave me the address
Uh-huh.
and told me to just go to this show up at this location, and the musician is going to be there waiting for me to meet me and to start rehearsals.
Right.
I showed up at the house, and who met me?
Oh,
Chris
you didn't know?
Frantz and Tina Weymouth.
Wow. Is it the house where they live now?
That's the same house that
Oh,
they live
wow.
now.
Wow.
Chris Frantz and Tina Weymouth of Tom Tom Club and Talking Heads. That's who met me. That's who gonna be my backing band, the Tom Tom Club.
Your life is amazing how these things organically happen and these great
Tell
things.
me about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about it. So we start reminiscing a little bit, but then because I know I was never an evil child. I was never a bad child, to be true to you. I was more like a mischievous kid.
Okay.
So I didn't want to bring up much about what I remember back in Bahamas, if you know what I
Right.
mean.
Yeah.
So I just be quiet about it. And it just so happened that we all fell in love with each other, man. And the chemistry was definitely there. We rehearsed the songs that I was going to perform, and they suggested other songs and other ideas, and I was open to them, and it was very smooth. We did the show in New York. At the time, the frontman for Tom Tom Club was Charles Pettigrew
Right. Right.
from Charles and Eddie, the duet. Um, but Charles was ill at the time. He was fighting cancer.
Right.
Tom Tom Club also had some shows to do, but Charles was not healthy enough to do those shows. So that's when they had asked me if I mind join Tom Tom Club.
Okay. Yeah.
And during that same period of time, I literally would, me, Chris, and Tina would drive to Philadelphia and meet up with our friend Rini and hang out at the hospital. Spend a lot of time at the hospital with Charles.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, he didn't make it.
Right.
So then Chris and Tina asked me if I would be the frontman for Tom Tom Club. And that's when it started. And until this day, if they called me and said, we have a show to do, I never say no.
Right. Right. Hopefully there'll be some gigs in the future with Tom Tom Club. I know there's been a little break in the action, but yeah.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping as well. I miss Tom Tom Club, and that's the
Right.
truth. I miss Tom Tom Club. I love Talking Dreads. Don't get me wrong. I
Right.
love performing Talking Dreads.
Right.
I love performing my Mystic Bowie solo music.
Mhm.
But Tom Tom Club, that's where, through the Tom Tom Club, is where I really made my name.
Right.
Through the music industry.
Now, a couple gigs I wanted to ask you about with the Tom Tom Club. Well, actually, I got a few, but the first time I saw you with the Tom Tom Club was at club in New York. It was on. It was here near Union Square. Do you remember that gig? It wasn't Irving Plaza. The Bowery Ballroom.
Bowery Ballroom. Oh yeah, I remember that place.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was watching the beginning of the show, and all of a sudden I looked to my left. Debbie Harry is standing right next to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're all friends,
Right, right.
The great thing about being around musicians back in those days is not like what it is now.
Right.
Musicians now is very rare if you find an artist or
Mhm.
musicians now that actually, like I should say, established, accomplished artists today that is
Right.
friends with another accomplished artist.
Oh, really?
Everybody's so dissected and separated and in their own little world, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like back in the days of Tom Tom Club and Talking Heads. You're talking about they take turns and go to each other's shows, and they're friends. They show up at each other's houses. And
Mhm.
hell, I remember at one point when I was living with Chris and Tina,
Okay. Yeah.
Debbie Harry would just come over.
Right. Wow.
You know, we'd go to New York. Who we meeting with for dinner this today? Oh, we're gonna hang out with Dee Dee or Joey Ramone. I mean, Dee Dee or one. We hang out with people. We again really close friends with the B-52s. Really close friends with Blondie. It's just that bond between
Mhm.
musicians, that bond and natural respect, as
Right.
opposed to what you have now is competition.
Right.
It's missing, man. That bond is
Wow.
missing. That chemistry is missing. I'm
Yeah.
hoping. I'm hoping these young artists can, hear what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And put some of that to use on what
Exactly.
because it would
Exactly.
improve. It would improve a lot of stuff.
Of
Yeah.
course. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how good an artist you are. If you
Yeah.
start reasoning and have conversation with other artists, that
Yeah.
stimulates creative juice.
Right. Right. Now I wanted to ask about we were honored to be invited to Chris Frantz and Tina Weymouth's house and Mystic Bowie performing there live at the clubhouse. There were two performances, but I think the first set I forgot the girl's name, but her braids were clinging or something in the mix, and they had to just go with the second set. Is that a true story?
Yes. Oh, I don't remember her name. She have
Yeah,
it's a pearly, pale, very pale Caucasian girl dancing around like crazy with
she was right
long
in front of us.
dreadlocks.
Yeah, yeah, she was in
She
front of
was
us.
so into it, long dreadlocks, but in her on her locks, she have all these decorations that were clinging and clunking. And
Right. Wow.
I don't know if you should ask Chrisantine. I don't know. I'm most likely remember her name.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
she had all those things in her hair clinking around. So we end up could not use some of that audio
Right.
because some of those clunking was louder than the actual recording.
Yeah, you never think of things like that, right?
Yeah, but with today's technology,
Yeah.
we could isolate those.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and just pull them all out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Right.
We just isolate those frequencies.
Right.
But yeah, remember that now. You know that you brought it up.
But yeah, that was a special night, and released a double CD. And what was it like recording at Chris and Tina's house? Because they've got the studio or the mixing stuff is in another location, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Basically there's a detached garage, and above that garage is the control room.
Okay. All right.
And in the main house, the living room,
Right.
or their den really, that's their den. That's actually the music room.
Right.
So they didn't need to put up sound absorbers and traps and anything because it was partially a library with all of the books lined up. So those books become diffusers.
Ah.
It
Okay.
just
Yeah.
it was an amazing natural space to make music. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And Chris
Just
and Tina, just so you know, if you listen to this, we need to make more music in that room.
that's right. Yeah. Chris and Tina, I'm here. I'm pleading. Tom Tom Club, Mystic Bowie in the mix, and all the other great musicians. Let's get it together.
Victoria, I miss
Yeah,
singing with
Victoria
you.
Clamp. Yeah.
I miss singing with Victoria. Oh my gosh, we had so
Yeah.
much fun.
Great rapport, you, Victoria, and Tina up
Yeah,
front. And
I'm telling you, right across that
yeah,
front, man,
yeah.
me, Victoria, Tina up front there was just this certain time of the night on stage where we would forget who we were, where
Mhm.
we were, and then we would get into this almost like a euphoria, a musical euphoria where we all three of us would be doing stuff, and then at the end of the night, folks would show us a videos like, "Oh my God, this was so powerful! Look what you guys did, and this was so funny." I had no idea that happened.
Wow. Like you were in the zone. Yeah. That was, hey,
There was
what,
a
oh, go ahead.
there was a point where somebody had showed me a video
Mhm.
of me on all fours walking around the stage like a horse, and Victoria was on my back. And again, I had no idea that happened until they showed me. The person had sent me a freeze frame of a photo.
Wow. And you don't even party. That's amazing.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Hey, NPR Tiny Desk. That's another great thing that Tom Tom Club did together. What was that like? Because I know you also had the musical board playing for a little bit,
Yeah, I
right?
was playing the washboard.
The board, okay.
Yeah.
What
No,
where was that recorded, and what was it like being in a confined space like that?
it was at the NPR National Public Radio Studios in Washington D.C.
Okay.
And it was awesome. Because what it does, it allows you to face your vulnerability. Not many
Okay.
instruments.
Right.
You know, it was very stripped down,
Mhm.
and we were in this office behind a desk, literally the tiny desk concert it was.
All right.
And we were behind this desk. I had my washboard on, and Chris Frantz had a cowbell. Tina had her acoustic bass. Bruce
Yeah.
had, what did he have? Accordion.
Right.
I think Fuzz had a guitar,
Yeah, I think Fuzz, yeah.
and Victoria was clapping and singing.
And the
And
kid G was there.
Kid G, I think he was either had a cowbell or clapping. I don't remember how it went,
Right.
but we was very stripped down, vulnerable, and after the first half a minute, we all just started having so much fun because the people inside
Yeah.
the studio start dancing, and we're having so much fun. We weren't expecting them to be dancing around.
Yeah.
So that's now allowed us now to just set in our own zone and just let loose. And it was an
Right.
amazing experience.
Yeah, a
Tiny
lot
Desk
of
concert, man. NPR.
yeah, NPR.
Love
We love
them.
those
Love them.
concerts, and you know, it's tough to get in there. Yeah, but of course, Tom Tom Club and yourself so well established in the business. But yeah, it's a good format.
It's a great format. And
Yeah.
it's, the I get to, over time, I've seen some amazing talent
Mhm.
at that event, the Tiny Desk concert. I mean, one of my favorite that I've watched there is, again, one of my favorite artists ever, Jimmy Cliff.
Oh wow, yeah. I haven't
You
seen
know,
that one. I got to pull that up. Yeah.
yeah, to see Jimmy musically stripped down
Right.
behind a desk, the Tiny Desk concert, doing, it was like, this is amazing, because he was singing songs that inspired me as a child performer.
Right.
These are songs that I grew up on. These are songs that and I would literally have dreams as a kid, dream
Wow.
that I was singing these songs on stage. So then to
Mhm.
come see Jimmy Cliff singing these songs without a huge band to take it, to become a distraction kind of.
Yeah.
He always have amazing band behind him. He always have great musicians. But you know, to see him stripped down more like an acoustic version was that did it for me, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great seeing when musicians themselves appreciate and get moved like we do for you, and you get moved by other artists like that. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all, believe it or not, we get inspiration from each other. We get inspiration from uh, the actions of each other's. Uh, and I can speak for myself. I'm hoping that more young artists, young
Mhm.
musicians would start paying more attention to seasoned older artists, more experienced artists, as
Mhm.
opposed to just jumping and flowing on the hype of their success.
Right. Right.
You know, and if they flow with if they can learn to absorb some of this vibe and the magnetic energy from more seasoned artists and musicians, they realize that their songs would not all so much sound the same.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's true.
You know, if you
How?
think about it these days,
Mhm.
almost most of the songs sound the same.
Yeah, they compress it all the same way, and
Yeah,
yeah,
everything sound alike, man. There's no
right,
creativity anymore.
right. How about you always have associated yourself with great musicians like yourself with different band members. Tell us about the current version of Talking Dreads. Who's in the band? And I mean, we started Talking Dreads that night about a few months ago. Amazing as always.
Well, the current version of Talking Dreads, and that keep changing, if you know what I mean. Uh,
Right.
but there are the root members of Talking Dreads. For
Okay.
example, Rupert McKenzie is on bass, and he was always been on bass ever since I launched Talking Dreads.
Okay.
Then we have on drums. There's it's go between Juan Paris, who's from St. Lucia,
Okay.
living in Connecticut, between him and Wayne Fletcher, who's a Jamaican living in New York.
Okay.
So it's between both of them right now. Because some shows this already this coming year, there's some shows that Fletcher will be playing drums, and there's others that one will be playing drums. So those are the anchor drummers. And guitar currently is Don Thomas out of
Okay.
Massachusetts. Also keyboard, Jason Metcalf,
Okay.
from Massachusetts. Those are the current musicians. Then on vocals, Keisha Martin, who's also a star in her own right, a Jamaican living in New York.
Okay. Yeah.
She's on vocals, and we also have Tracy Ricalde
Yeah.
from
She's a great
Connecticut.
artist. Yeah. Just got
She
married, right?
herself is
Yeah.
an amazing artist,
Right.
amazing vocalist, amazing songwriter. So Tracy Ricalde, and goes under the name Tracy Joe.
Right.
She's one of the vocalists. At times, Cat Douglas will be on stage with us as well. So you just never know. But those are the root.
Right.
This coming show at New Year's Eve in
Universal
Saratoga
Preservation
Springs.
Hall. Yeah.
Yeah, that one, Rupert McKenzie will be in Jamaica because his dad is not doing so well physically.
Oh, okay.
So he will be in Jamaica for that one. So this guy Paul Deedon will be subbing for Rupert on bass. Paul Deedon, a musical prodigy. He's absolutely prodigy.
Mhm.
I remember meeting Paul when he was 5 years old, having Paul Deedon on stage with me singing,
Wow.
because his parents would hire me to play these private events.
Okay.
And I realized I would hear him singing side stage, and like, get over here, sing this line for me.
Right.
And then ever since then, I brought him on the stage. Then by the time he was 12 years old, he played bass for me on an entire show.
Wow.
Then Victor Wooten took him away to play bass with him on an entire camp.
Oh yeah, I know Victor Wooten. He's been on the show like 5 times. The base camp out in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, so that took
Yeah.
this kid at 5 years old to teach at
Yeah.
that camp when he was 12 years old.
Wow.
He turned out to be this bass prodigy. He's amazing.
How old is he
And
now?
He's based in Connecticut. He was born and raised here in Connecticut.
No, how old is he?
I
He's
think
early
he's now
20s?
about 32.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 32, somewhere in that area.
Right.
31, 32. But he will be playing bass at Saratoga Springs.
Wow. You got stories. You got stories to forever.
Yeah, but speaking of stories, that
Uh-huh.
Tracy Ricalde,
Yeah.
I also met Tracy when she was 6 years old.
Wow.
I
How'd that
was
happen?
performing. I was
Uh-huh.
performing the first night in Westport, Connecticut.
Oh, I was at that show.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, that was a great. We were selling
Yes, you were.
merchandise
Kurt
a little
Berglund.
bit. Yeah.
Kirk Berglund on drums, Renard Boissier and backup vocals and guitar.
Chris and
Jonathan
Tina came up
Treby,
there. Yeah.
keys, Pat Lavery on bass. Yeah, you were there.
Karen Johnstone.
Karen Johnstone on keys as well. So what had happened? Remember, they had little kids would come up and ask me to sign autographs for them and take pictures with them and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And it was years later, um, somebody came to me and introduced me himself to me and said, "You took a picture years ago with my little daughter when she was 6 years old. You were so nice to her, blah, blah, blah. And here is the picture," and showed me the picture.
Wow.
And he said, "She's now that singer, Tracy Ricalde." I'm like, "No,
Oh, wow.
Tracy Ricalde, that's that little girl?" He said,
Right,
"Yes."
right. That
Says,
was at the Westport Library, right?
yeah, it was at the Westport. It was Westport Library.
That's
Yeah, I
the
think
one
it
that
was.
I went to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
So
That that was it.
first night. Wow.
Yeah,
A lot of great connections.
yeah, it's great for me to see. I met these people years later, generations later.
Mhm.
I'm now working with them
Yeah.
without any form of tension,
Right, right.
which means, and also prove to myself that I was a mischievous kid, but I was never a bad person.
Yeah. That's right. Mischievous is never too bad as long as you don't, hurt anybody and,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So talkingdreads.com is where our viewers and listeners can go to. Uh, this New Year's Eve at Universal Preservation Hall in downtown Saratoga Springs, New York. And just to give you some hope, we've had snow all winter. We've had a lot of snowstorms, but I looked at the forecast. I think it's going to melt away by the time you hit town.
Thank you
So,
very much.
yeah, so you
I
should be okay.
appreciate that highly.
Yeah.
Because as much as I love Saratoga Springs,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of snow.
Yeah. The first 2 winters we were up here wasn't bad at all. But,
Correct.
but this year there's been some stuff. But people can go there. I think it says you guys are playing 8:45 p.m. But if you buy tickets, you can go to just about every event with the exception of a couple. But yeah, it sounds like a great night.
It's going to be fun. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm grateful that they called me back.
Right.
And I can guarantee you all up there an amazing time. So just plan on it. Just come out and have fun with us. What's there to lose?
That's right. I mean, you're going to hear reggae versions, Mystic Bowie versions, Talking Heads music. You're also going to hear some Grateful Dead music mixed with the funk and ska and Mystic Bowie solo work. And,
Exactly.
How do you blend funk, soul, reggae, rock into the Mystic Bowie sound?
You know what? If you're open-minded to all genre of music,
Right.
then over time it becomes natural to blend them. It doesn't take much work to blend them, believe it or not.
Right, right.
Because it becomes now a part of you, because you allow yourself to be able to absorb all this genre of music. The different styles, the different sounds, the different accents of music. And once you allow yourself to be able to be also opened to the arts of music,
Yep.
it doesn't take much to bring them together, man.
You do a killer version of Shakedown Street, ultra funky, and yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that one is and thinking of another story, I did Shakedown Street, the reggae version, a funky reggae version on the Talking Dreads album.
Okay. Yeah.
The reason why I put one Grateful Dead song on it is because in the 90s, again, I was a teenager performing at the hotels in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
I would perform at the hotels, go to school, come back and perform again.
Right.
After school. And one of the time there was this American band that was performing in Jamaica. And I have no clue who they were, but the main guy would be hanging out. He would come out and hang out by the beach with a little acoustic guitar. Just singing and playing. And if you're gonna do that around me, Believe me, whether you want my attention or not, you're gonna get my company.
Right.
So I would go out, join him, sit there, and he'd hand me the guitar and show me some chords. Because, as a child in Jamaica, you don't have access to guitar. Nobody's gonna put their guitar in your hand. It's
Right.
very slim chance somebody's gonna put their guitar in your hand. It's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Owning a guitar in Jamaica is like owning a pound of gold.
Wow.
Yeah. And he would give me that guitar. So needless to say, oh my gosh, I cannot believe he just did this. And I'd be so happy he showed me some chords. And then when he was leaving Jamaica, after they did their performance and they were leaving Jamaica, he saw me and he handed me the guitar. I thought he wanted me was to just play the chords that he had showed me.
Right.
He said, no, that is yours. He said, this is yours. And he walked away and he left me with that guitar. So that was my first guitar.
Wow.
And it was later on in life, I saw a picture of him. Came to Miami to perform, and I saw his picture on somebody's shirt. And I said, I know that guy. And the person said, no, you cannot know him. You don't know him, man. His name is Jerry Garcia, and he's singing with a band called Grateful Dead. And then I said, no, you don't understand. He gave me my first guitar.
Wow.
So when
Yeah.
I was recording this album, Talking Dreads album in Jamaica,
Yep.
I chose one of their songs. I put Shakedown Street on it because Shakedown Street's on it. Simply out of respect for this guy who never told me he was famous, never told me who he was, and he never insulted me when I, as a child, tried to, being inquisitive, being around him. Instead, he gave me a guitar, and that was huge. So I put a Grateful Dead song on Talking Dreads record as a tribute to Jerry Garcia.
Tell me this town ain't got no heart.
Yeah, you've been playing that song for years. A great version. And one of the highlights, I still have great memories. Sunday nights, it was Amber Jacks, right?
Amber Jacks.
With just, the Paul Renard Bosse, Kurt Berglund, Pat Lavery, I think Frank Mercurio, but you had so many musicians coming in and out.
Paul Mercurio was one of the guitar player at times.
Right. But it was a cool spot. Sunday night, where usually is not a happening night for shows, but you turned it out every Sunday night. And what was the idea behind that? And how did that you put all those people together?
Actually putting those people together was not my idea. It was Renard Boissier's idea.
Right. Yeah. Shout out to Renard. Yeah.
Yeah. Renard, for those who are not familiar, Renard Boissier was the guitar player for the Neville Brothers at one point. And he was introduced to me by Chris and Tina.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Chris and Tina introduced me to Renard Boissier. And Renard and I start playing music together, writing music together on the side. And we still, until this day, we still write music together.
Oh, okay.
And he had moved back to New Orleans.
Right, right.
And I'm between, as I know, I'm between Connecticut and Jamaica.
Right.
But we are, my second to last trip in Jamaica, I didn't even fly to Connecticut. I flew to New Orleans.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and hang out with him there, wrote 4 songs. Then I came up here.
Okay.
Those songs are not even yet professionally recorded, but they're all written, arranged. And, so those projects, those groups of people were all put together by Renard Boissier, thanks to him.
Yeah, I remember years ago in Connecticut, you and Renard were doing demos. It was for a female vocalist, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Did that ever come out or?
We have stuff that folks would buy. We sell music to if a person wants a song written.
Right.
We have a collection of songs that they can listen to and to see if they want to buy songs for their artists.
Right, right.
So we still do that kind of stuff. But
right.
If you sell a song, sometimes we don't even know if the song was released or not because we never keep track. If it's sold, it's sold. If it's licensed out, then we want to know because then we getting paid for royalties.
That's right.
But if you sell a song straight out, then it's not your song anymore.
Okay. Yeah. You find the balance on what you want to do, right?
Correct.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to ask you. you're notorious for putting birthday bashes together for yourself, but over the years you've combined it with Bob Marley's birthday bash. You can check out all the dates on talkingdreads.com. But
Correct.
the influence, of course, of Bob Marley worldwide. What did Bob Marley and his music mean to you?
The music of Bob Marley and Bob Marley himself means a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it should mean a lot to every single person that plays reggae music and Jamaican music on a whole.
Right.
Because Bob Marley, without a doubt, cannot be contested, had paved the way for all us Jamaicans to be able to step in and outside of Jamaica
Mm-hmm.
as reggae stars. He already trampled the grass, if you know what I mean.
Right. Right.
You know, he made the sacrifice. He made that sacrifice, stepped out here, trampled the grass, knock it all down so we could come and have an easier pavement to tread through, to walk on, and to perform in doing reggae music. So it means Bob, the name Bob Marley, what he stand for, the one love. You know, you treat me the way you want to be treated. I treat you the way I want to be treated.
Right.
The messages in Bob Marley's music, his standards of life,
Yep.
you know, the class, you know, it's sad to see some of the people, not some of the Jamaicans, fail to follow his footsteps. Yes, we need to also have our own steps, but we also need to pay attention to those teachers, you know, to those angels that already paved the way for us.
Mm-hmm.
We need to reflect once in a while back on their teachings and realize we could be a lot kinder person. We
Right.
could be sweeter people. We could be kinder people if we only take the time to reflect back on their lifestyle. People like Bob Marley.
I think my favorite song that I've seen you do live, Bob Marley's "Turn the Lights Down."
Ah,
Yeah, that's a
great
great
tune.
one. Yeah.
Great
So
tune. Great tune, man.
so we got to remind our viewers, listeners, New Year's Eve, Universal Preservation Hall at Saratoga Springs in Saratoga Springs, New York, upstate New York. You check talkingdreads.com. Mystic Bowie and company are going to be extremely busy, and I know you're going to be adding more dates
Oh yeah.
all along the country and out of the country. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2025. And Chris and Tina, we put it on your table. A few dates with the Tom Tom Club, Mystic Bowie and company with Chris and Tina. So
We've done it
yeah,
before. I remember when I remember done it before where literally I would be singing as part of Tom Tom Club
yep.
and Mystic Bowie would be opening for Tom Tom Club. So I'd be on stage twice in the same show.
Wow. Yeah. But you love that. I mean, you know,
Of
that's your
course I
life.
love
That's
that,
your
man.
life. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I got to
Exactly.
thank you for giving us joy all these years and being a great friend.
No, thank you for taking the time to allow me in your life. Thanks
Yeah.
for to
Thanks.
Sister G, your queen, Sister G, for allowing me to take so much of your time in the radio stations, you know, over the years.
Yeah. I miss those times down at VOF. Since
Yeah.
the pandemic, I haven't been there. Have you been down to VOF or
No, I have
the
not.
reggae show? I know PKN's got a new studio. How are the new studios there?
Beautiful.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely beautiful studio.
Wow. And Chris is doing his thing. The
Yeah.
Talking
Chris
Head.
is there every other Friday?
Yeah, I know he's got a show this week. He's got
Yeah.
it tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. The Talking Head.
Right.
The
So
Talking Head radio show. I love it. I love it.
yeah.
Awesome.
All right, brother.
Yeah, man.
All the
Yo,
best. One
Joe.
love. Yeah.
One love always, man.
Thanks.
My heart, your heart, you know, and to the heart of all the listeners out there, I want to wish you all a happy holiday. And all the best, all the best. Good health, wealth. Health is wealth. Without
Right.
health, you have nothing.
Right.
Health is wealth. So I wish you all wealthy health
There you go.
through
Well said.
2025.
There he is, Mystic Bowie, the prophet right there. So, yeah, thanks, brother.
One love, brother.
Lots of words, rapping words, chatting words.